Don't forget to hit like on the video if you are enjoying the content. Leave a comment below on the video if you are so inclined to express your thoughts and opinions, or do me a solid and hit me up with a subscribe to the channel if you want to keep up with the content or just want to show your support. And yeah, let's play some fucking Guild Wars. Hey, what's up everyone? You got Mind Circus here, and welcome to my new series, Let's Replay Guild Wars 2. Let me give you a good idea of what we are going to be doing here in this series. My intention here is to start up a kind of playthrough of the game, but not focused on what you usually see the playthroughs of this game focused on. This is not going to be a new player experience. This is absolutely not going to be me, going through things for the first time, because to set things into perspective here, you'll notice I may have a lot of characters on my account. Currently sitting at 21 characters. This will be my 22nd. We'll get into the character creation in a couple of moments. The main idea of this series is I am going to be creating a new character and leveling it to 80 while using the things I know about the game to progress in what I feel is a fun and easy way, but without using the things on my account that will give me an advantage that the new player may or may not have. So what am I talking about when I say that? It means I'm not going to be using mounts. It means I'm going to be leveling my character naturally for the most part through the entire game. And really what it means is that I'd like to put a playthrough down of leveling a character from 1 to 80 so that the new player or the existing player who's looking for some tips on progressing through the game could get a good idea of how somebody would progress through it knowing what they know already. So when we look at my characters on the account, you'll see I have quite a few. I am 100% map complete. You can see this on a number of characters on my account. I believe I am 100% map complete 11 times. We can see this down here on a number of my characters. I have other characters that obviously are not, and 63 on this one, 89 on this one. I've kind of lost my enjoyment of world completing after doing it 11 times. So that's really what we're going to be focusing on. The first thing I do want to do, though, is I want to get past these menu screens as quickly as possible before I talk a little bit more about what we'll be doing in this series. And the reason why I want to do this is I just want to get out of our menus here. We're not going to be spending a whole lot of time here, and you'll see why in a few moments. Now, that's not to say I don't spend a lot of time making my characters. I spend a tremendous amount of time on my characters. I love each and every one of these little characters. They have a whole little story in the back of my head, and I'm a real big fan of the game and the way it makes it lets you make new characters and express new kind of ideas, etc. So what I'm going to be doing here is I will be creating a new character. So we'll go to the character creation here, and we will double click that, and we will get started. Now, a couple of things to note. The first thing is I will be making a male Sylvari. The reason I will be making a male Sylvari, if we hit the back on this, you will notice, if you are paying particular attention, that I do not have a male Sylvari, and in fact male Sylvari is the only gender race combo that I do not have. Now, the reason I didn't play a male Sylvari up to this point is that I just don't like the voice actor for the male Sylvari. But I'm at this point, I don't have a male Sylvari. I have every other combination of gender and race on the account, so I'm going to be doing that. So we'll go back into our character creator here, and again we will choose Sylvari, and we will choose male. The next thing to know is that I will be leveling a Necromancer for this playthrough. Now, the reason I'm going to be playing a Necromancer is that the new expansion is coming up, and I would really very much like to play a Harbinger. That said, I already have 2 Necromancers who I am really, really happy with, and the whole Harbinger idea doesn't really suit them. So I am going to be creating a male Sylvari Necromancer, and that is our next step here. So we'll go into this. We'll double click this. You know, before I take any other step in here, you know, a common question you get in Guild Wars 2, let me just back up real quick here, is, you know, what race should I play? What class should I play? As for race and class in this game, with race, it is just about 100% cosmetic. It's about what you like for the aesthetics. It's about what tickles your fancy for the lore. You know, I tend to play Asura, but I just like the animations of the Asura more than anything, so that's one thing to keep in mind. With the classes, you know, unlike a lot of other MMORPGs, Guild Wars 2's class design is really so good that there is a viable alternative for every game mode for every class. So what that's saying is that you've got the ability to, you know, make whatever class you want and play it in a fun and viable way, regardless of what game mode you choose to go into, whether you choose to play PvE, whether you choose to play the high-end PvE, whether you choose to do the world versus world or the PvP, you know, the competitive gameplay. You know, you are always in a situation where whatever class you pick has a viable option for it. So when it comes to your class, you know, pick the one that looks cool, pick the one where the aesthetics work for you, pick the one that you're going to be, you know, comfortable with. If you like the idea of, you know, the ranger and the ranger pet and running around in the open world with your longbow, you know, do that. If you like the idea of the elementalist, you know, attuning and calling the elements, etc., then do that. There are absolutely 100% viable options for every class, regardless of your game mode. So going back to what I was saying about what I'm going to be doing here in this series is I'm absolutely going to be playing a male Sylvari Necromancer. Once I get here, I may throw you guys a bit of a curveball, though. When it comes to the appearance, I am not going to spend any time in here in the character creator. That might sound really strange to you guys, but the reason being, you know, I'll demonstrate a little bit later, but to sketch it all out for you, when you are in the character creator here, you are going to be given options for things like, and we'll come in here, you've got your hair options, okay, and you've got your face options, and obviously your skin color options, etc. Now, the reason why I'm not going to spend any time in here is because there are a number of cash shop items that will allow us to customize our character's looks without with less restrictions. And what that means is there will be more faces, there'll be more colors, there'll be more hairstyles, etc. And I'm always going to go and spend my time with all of those options. I'll have a few of those on my account. Now, that is one of the places where I'm going to use my veterans, you know, my veterans kind of things. But the other option is to remember that the makeover kits that have the increased options are available from the cash shop. They're not, you know, extremely cheap. They're not extremely expensive. They're relatively cheap. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. If you feel bad about it, just use what's here in front of you. There are many spectacular options for creating your character. I just like having the other options. Keep in mind a couple of things about Guild Wars 2. First off, Gems to Gold exists. You have the ability to, you know, buy that permanent, or you have the ability to buy that makeover contract if you want it. If that's one of your things, go ahead and do that. But that's how I'm going to play it out. I am going to absolutely skip mostly this part of the character creator, knowing that I'm going to be going in. I already have a vision for this character in my head, particularly when it comes to the aesthetics, and I do want to use the increased options available in a Black Lion kit. So we'll take a look when we get into game. And again, I don't want to, you know, say that the character creator here is limited. It's an absolutely serviceable character creator. It isn't one of the ones that I will call better. You know, I would point to City of Heroes. I would point to Black Desert Online as games with better character creators than this one. So our next step here is to choose a couple of different options that the character creator is going to give us, and I'll go over some of the options that it'll give here and the impact it'll have. The number one thing that we're going to have here is a option for choosing a face mask, and if we look on this, we get different effects on our face. All right, these are skin unlocks. So, choose the one that looks cool to you. If you want the option to get one of these other skins later, just make another alt really quickly, unlock it, log the character in, and that'll be available to any character on your account. So what I'm going to do here is I will choose this because it really doesn't matter. I already have all these things unlocked. The next thing here is we will be given our options for the charm, dignity, and ferocity mechanic in this game. A quick little sketch out about this. This is a mechanic in the game that was one of those really interesting ideas they came up with while they were building the game, and then as the game has progressed is being completely rendered of very little interest or value. The idea behind this was to create some kind of system where you would be given different options depending on these, that there was a vision of this game down the future that story options would open up depending on your alignment to these options. The reality is all of these things these days are nothing but a dialogue choice. Play it out, RP it if you want, but this is a system that ultimately does not matter in the game. So what am I going to pick here? Doesn't really matter. Fist looks kind of cool. I do like the dignity option. It kind of suits my character better, so I'm going to use this as a bit of an RP thing. I dreamed of a quest that calls me to action. It was a vision of the White Stag, Green Knight, Shield of the Moon. I believe this is going to dictate our a few options in our personal story. Again, I'm not going to be paying a whole lot of attention to the story in this, and these choices that we're making in character creation, in terms of their actual impact on our story, are not massive. They will change our story in the level 10 story, the level 20 story, but as we get past the level 10 and level 20 stories in this game, and to sketch it out, we get a new, bunch of story every 10 levels. So as we get to level 10, there's a story unlock. As we get to level 20, level 30, level 40, etc. We'll have the ability to do that. The thing, though, is that once we get to level 30, everything becomes, pretty much the same. We get funneled into 3 different story paths at level 30. And then at level 60, those story paths all kind of converge into one central story path. Now, some of our choices in the past do impact things, but how much do they impact things? Not very much. There'll be a dialogue change here and there. The central core of the story does not change, too much depending on this. There'll be some branching story arcs that you may not see depending on a story choice here or there. Ultimately, though, once we get past the core content into the expansion content, all of these are simply one linear story. And the choices that you make back here are seldom represented in the story once we get into Heart of Thorns and beyond. So keeping that in mind, if you are a story aficionado, I suggest you get a little bit more into this. Right now, I like the Shield of the Moon. It sounds nice. The moon is a powerful symbol of healing and magic, yet ain't no one got time for that. Same kind of deal here. This is a character flavor thing. I believe that the most important of Ventari's teachings, if you've never really looked at the lore of this game, the lore of the Sylvari and Ventari is actually really compelling lore. It's fantastic. But for the purpose of this playthrough, I believe that act with wisdom but get on with things is the way to do it. The pale tree awakened me during the blah blah blah. Again, small little details that may flesh out in certain character interactions during the game, but ultimately do not impact things. So, pick what sounds cool. Pick what sounds cool. I will be the Cycle of Dawn. There we go. Now, in terms of the name, we may have to take a couple of seconds here, but I have come up with a name that really fits. Now, when it comes to naming my Sylvari characters, I tend to stick with what is sort of canon in this game, and making my characters lore friendly. I believe the general kind of guide is that a Sylvari will have a name that is kind of Gaelic in its origin, and that kind of speaks to a few other things about the Sylvari culture. So I've got one in mind that I kind of searched around. I like the name Connell. The name Connell means mighty, high, admired by all, one who is strong in battle. And I believe that really at the core of the character that I'm building here is what is really what I'm trying to do. So the first thing I will do is just try here and see what comes up and see if that is taken. Of course it is. This may take a couple of tries here, and we'll see what we come up with. Well, that was easy. So I've chosen yeah, no.
25 years ago, my people first
me and this are not going to do our thing here. Okay. This playthrough is not going to be showing you guys story. There are 100 other playthroughs out there, and go and check one of those out. I highly recommend you do so. So here we are. Every character will be in a starting zone, a tutorial zone. The Sylvari tutorial zone, absolutely gorgeous, I will say that. When it comes to the tutorial zones and the tutorial experience in this game, I feel that they are pretty solid tutorials for the first 10 levels. I think that this game specifically may run into some problems later on tutorializing itself, but I think that really in terms of the very early game, the tutorialization is actually pretty spectacular. Just going to turn down the master volume here a little bit while we plow through this. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, so let's kill some dudes. Your standard MMO thing here.
It is time. The poison is at its strongest in the clearing beyond. Have courage.
I will have courage. I care. I really do. Defeat the shadow creatures. Alright, let's do it up.
I feel the purity has breathed her strength into me. She's made me tangible, but only for a few moments.
Alright, we'll get to work. I'm not here to carry you. Alright.
Swiftly now. We must end this corruption.
End the hell out of this corruption. Hello, newly created ranger. You are newly created ranger number 1450 today. So, standard MMO fare, we will fight the giant boss with our one attack. Really, during these phases, and it's kind of important to know that there really isn't a fail condition. You're just going to sit here and whack on this thing until it dies. If there are a couple more people, it'll probably go a little bit quicker, but it's obviously not an awful experience. It does get you used to the very basics of combat. Oh, you go, Longbow Ranger. One of the important things to know is this game is actually really tutorializing itself quite well at this point, because you will spend a lot of time slapping dragons' feet.
It is finished. The dream is safe from this poison.
One dragon foot vanquished. Many more to go. Alright, so there we have it. We have cleared our tutorial instance. We have been given our one piece of new equipment, which we will go here and equip right away. The next thing I'm going to do here as a character is I'm actually going to put my character into a place where I tend to kind of park my tunes, and there's a bit of a reason for that, and we'll go through it here in a few moments. But one of the things to know is when we pull up our map here, and we took a look at the entire map of Tyria, when we start a new character, we get access to the waypoints, the instant travel points, of every other main starting area. So when we're in the Sylvari area, which is back down here, okay, in Caledon Forest. We have absolute access to this waypoint here. If we look over here, we can actually go to Soar and Draw. One of the things to keep in mind is that Guild Wars 2 really does kind of go out of its way to let you play with your friends, and this is obviously one of the early ways it's doing that, and saying that when I get into this game, I have the ability to go to any of these areas and start progressing my character. This game doesn't put you nearly as on rails as a lot of other MMORPGs. As one of the things really I appreciate the most about it. So let's go ahead here, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to the human starting zone because it is a fair bit easier for me to do so. And then the next thing I will do is I will go ahead and I will go into our options here, and I'm actually going to unkeybind my mounts. Now, the reason why I'm unkeybinding my mounts is I absolutely don't want to be, breaking my challenge here by doing this out of muscle memory. So bringing this up here in a moment. I'm not exactly sure what this is. There we go. Mount, dismount, X. Okay. We are going to change this to, say, the plus button. Okay, which I never use for this, and I will accept that, and there I go. So what I'm doing here is making sure I don't mount up outside of combat. I've obviously got the muscle memory to do that, and that is one thing that I want to make sure that I'm not doing in order to kind of keep this challenge intact. As I'm walking towards here, we'll talk a little bit about the challenge, and I'll put some of the things up on the screen. Obviously, my goal here is to level to 80 without using too many of my my veterans kind of perks on this account. One of the things to understand about Guild Wars 2 is the more you play it, it more than any other MMORPG absolutely divorces veteran players from the new player experience more than anything else. And what I mean to that is that the more you play this game, the further you get away from that new player experience. And in this game, it's particularly egregious. And when I say egregious, it's just you feel it way more in this game. And the reason for that is because so much of the unlocking in this game that you'll go through won't be power unlocks. It will be things like account-wide convenience unlocks. And that actually goes to the character leveling process. We have the ability in Guild Wars 2 to go ahead and kind of level our characters with what are called Tomes of Knowledge. Now, Tomes of Knowledge are something that we get as we're playing. As a veteran player, we get lots of these. And when we click on those, we're just getting a level. Now, I'm sitting in my bank on enough Tomes of Knowledge to, cap Fortunes. And that is another good example. So there's no reason for me to be going ahead and kind of unlocking all of these things. It's not something that the game actively wants me to do. It doesn't disincentivize me from playing alts. It makes those alts basically as powerful as anything else. You'll notice I have my glider equipped. I'm leaving my glider on just for convenience sake. I am not going to be unequipping my glider here. Before I take another step, I'm going to just point out the fact that I am standing near the portal here in Divinity's Reach to Fields of Ruin. And why I'm going to Fields of Ruin here will be very clear to you guys in a moment. Fields of Ruin I use, and I'm just going to walk up here and unlock this waypoint here. I use this area as kind of my own freebie kind of Mistlock sanctuary, and if you don't know what that is, there are some convenience areas in the game that put portals and banks and all sorts of conveniences really close. I'm not a big believer in those kind of unlocks, though I do like the convenience. There is an area here in Fields of Ruin, and I'll just walk by this really quickly to kind of give you guys a good idea, where we have the ability to go to any of the crafting stations, which are in a really nice lineup. Not only are they in a really nice lineup, like these are really kind of set up like really nice RP wise. I really like the style of these. So we've got all the crafting stations in a neat little row. Not only that, but at the end of our row here, we have our bank, okay, and we have our trading post. So we have access to anything we want here at this point. So that is why I have taken my character to this area. This area is obviously drastically over leveled, but now that I've got that, I will just always just park my characters here just for convenience sake. So with that said, let's get into the actual rules of this challenge. Let's take a look at the stated goal of this challenge, obviously to level to 80. To do it in a decent amount of time, to do it in a fun way, not necessarily to get there as quickly as possible, but then on the other side, it's to get there while avoiding a lot of noob traps. So let's keep that in mind. The next thing that I want to do is call out the actual rules here. Our actual number one rule here is not using any tomes of knowledge, so I'm not going to instantly level myself to level 80. I'm not going to be using anything like portal tomes to get to other areas. I have to kind of move myself around the way I do, so not using any kind of portal tomes or unlocks that are given when you boost a character to 80. You're given some unlocks as well for waypoints. I'm not going to be using those. I'm not going to be using anything that's in my bank. It's just the fact that I don't want to, if we come in here and take a look at my bank, obviously there are a lot of things I could use in here to, boost my character, not the least of which are these tomes or these experience scrolls. I'm obviously not going to be using those. I'm not going to be using any of the boosters that I've collected over the last few years playing this game. I'm not going to be using any teleport to friends, etc., etc. So no use of the bank until level 80. That kind of covers that. No mounts, as I mentioned before. I think mounts break the game. I think that there's no reason to use them until 80, and I think that actually using them cheats you out of something in this game, particularly during the level experience. Now, once you've got them, yeah, I get it. But when you're going through this game the first time, I just don't think mounts are a good idea. And you won't have access to them either as a new player. So we'll just kind of leave it at that for that point. They honestly completely break the core Tyria experience and really aren't needed with the waypointing system. So there's that. In terms of gear, I am going to allow myself to re-gear every 10 levels. So what that means is at level 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, I will be allowing myself to re-gear and buy new gear off the trading post. The maximum I am allowed to spend on gearing or food for this character is 10 silver a silver at every 10 levels. So what that means is 1 silver per level that I can spend on the 10 levels. So when I get to level 10, I'll have 10 silver. When I get to level 20, I'll have 20 silver, level 30, 30 silver, etc. That'll just put me very much in the area where I can put on some usable gear that is absolutely dirt cheap, at the same time as not kind of breaking the experience by, buying best in slot for whatever level. That said, leveling gear is really, really not a big deal in this game. And as you're playing through it, particularly the first time, it's mainly there just to teach you to upgrade it as you're moving along. It's to help understand the system. The actual impact of the gear is negligible at best. One last thing before we get started here on our adventure is that I want to point out before we go on that I'm not an ArenaNet partner. I do not make money off YouTube. I do not make very much money off YouTube. I've made about $100 off over the last 2 months. This is not my income stream. This is not something I am doing for money. So really what I want to say about all of that is that if you hear me talking about something in this game that I like or dislike, it is very much just an honest opinion about this game that I have come to really love over the last 5 years. It really is kind of that simple. I do really just want to kind of make that clear that there is no financial incentive for me to either talk up or talk down a part of this game. in anything other than my actual opinion on it. Now, I am very much a enjoyer of this game. I am very much somebody who loves the aesthetics and the gameplay, and I love a lot about this game. When you hear me gushing about it, it is not because it benefits me financially. And I think that that's important to point out, because I want it to be very clear in this series when I do express my appreciation for something about this game in general. It is absolutely not to get you to click a link under the video. Not that there's anything wrong with any of that. I just want it to be really, really clear before we go on. So, with that said, and that out of the way, I think we've taken our first steps here today. Starting next episode, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I am going to get into my character customization, and we'll go over the look of the character, what my vision for the character is, and we'll actually start to level it at that point. So, hey everybody, I'm going to thank you all very much for kind of hanging out with me for a little bit here today, getting into this first episode of the Let's Replay series, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. We'll get started next time. We'll get to leveling, we'll get to some fashion wars, and then we'll see where we go from there. And with that out of the way, I'm going to remind you to, hey, min-max your real life, have fun in game. I'm glad we took this moment. We'll see you next time.